this story is a living passion. I'm not crashing.
I'm having the sun come from this direction, so this side would be in shadow. So I'll do that, and I'm even going to paint in the shadow right now. And I think I could just bear to have this a little bit stronger. I'm not really worrying about any shapes or detail yet. I just want that in there. A little bit emphasis where it meets the ground, and if it, you see it's flowing into the ground, but that will be fine. I do like that hint of the red in there, so I'm going to just emphasize that a little bit. There's this little whatever it's called on the roof here, so I just need to be careful here. So I'm going to come in, do that. That's really wet, but I'll add a little bit of darker value to it. It's neat when I mix the red in as a pure pigment and let it mix on the paper. It's much more attractive. Thirsty brush. Just clean up the bottom of that shadow. I've dried it off now, and I'm just going to go in and address this tree. And once again, I'm going to start with it. This is a little more than tinted water, but it's a very light value of the phthalo blue. And I'm going to just do the whole tree first of all. And the branches I'm going to do the main branches, the big shapes first. Some of the little branches I'll add after, some I'll do now. Now into this right away, while it's still very wet, I'm going to come in with a significantly darker mixture. And the light's coming from this side, so this side of the tree will be the darkest. So I put my darks over on this side of things. Some detail, and it's going to run and blend, but it'll hold its shape a little bit. Okay, so that's good. Now the only thing with this, my darkest values and everything are at the top, and in a tree you want them, in a tree like this, it's the bottom that needs to be the darkest. So I'll bring some of those down. And what I'm actually going to do is just take pure water and just put some pure water in here, hoping to lighten the value at the top of the tree. So now I'll come back in here. So this is hopefully a little bit darker still. Yeah. And I'm just going to emphasize, remember I want it darker at the bottom. And because it's very wet, I find it neat to just, rather than brush things on, just sort of touch them in places and let the water do the work for you. Okay, I just need to widen this tree a little bit. And I'm going to take it and extend and have a shadow here. So I'm going to come over and I'll take the same color. I just want it to be a dark value. So not a lot of water. But not my darkest value off the bat. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this doorway here. And again, I'm going to try and break up the bottom a little more realistic. And I also want this back wall to be in shadow. And again, and have that kind of thing. But what I'm going to do is have this blend right into the shadow. carry on here. Again, a strong shadow under the eaves trough, or the roof there. And this, the shadow under this part of the roof is there, but it's not quite as strong as the other one. As I'm going to, this is just water. So I'm putting water in places, touching some of these darker shapes, encouraging them to run a bit. Yeah. And then into that I'm going to take some of my darker value mixture. And I'm actually going to get close to the bank, but not actually touch it, because sometimes the actual edge of the bank is an area that you may want to define a little bit more carefully. So if I just leave that white at the edge for now, then I can come back into that later. Okay, so this is really just full of tinted water. It's blue everywhere, so I want this to be different, and I'm going to choose more of the red. But what I'm going to use is what I kind of call the 6-stroke method, which means you start out with just strokes of the colors. So I'll take the red, and I'll have the red. I'll start here. I'll have a couple of strokes of red. And I'm going to switch, I'll switch right away to my yellow and do a kind of stroke of the yellow. It's all very wet. And I'm going to do another one up here. And I'm going to take a stroke of the blue. And then I'm going to repeat the red. And at the edge, I'll just put a little bit of the blue to soften it up there. Okay, so now what I do with this is I take these strokes of color and I'm going to tilt the board and let them all run down this way. Then I just let all those colors flow one way, the other way, up and down. And you see I get a very nice luminous wash in there. It's different than the land, so it reads as something different. Now I want to come in and take a darker value, meaning I want it to be drier. And this is, I'm going to revert a little bit more to my phthalo blue. I want to make sure this is still very wet. So this I know is going to run, so I want this mix to be darker, meaning drier than the water there. And so I want to get some of the reflections of the tree, which is going to be a dark value, and the barn here, particularly the back of the barn. Add a little bit more red in there. More red in there. And these are eventually going to be dark fence posts, so I'll maybe put a few of those in. So I'm just hoping that this will just give a little bit of movement to the water. I just find this foreground, like I like it, there's some suggested detail, but I would just like to do that a little bit more. And I just want to wet a lot of this foreground. So I'm going to go back more to my phthalo blue. That's going to really emphasize those two things. And just here and there, I mean. I'll just do a little bit of splattering here and there. And I don't want anything to go into the sky, so I'll mask that off. Yeah, and that sort of gives me some ideas, some things to work with. In fact, what I'll do now is I'm going to emphasize this bank here. And again, I'm trying to use a broken line, far more interesting than a solid line. And maybe there's some things happening here and there. And this, towards the edge, I want to tone it down. So I'm getting a different mixture, much lighter. And I think what I'll do is a little bit of work on this far bank. And again, I neutralize that because it's farther away from my center of interest. I'll have some grass shapes. I'm going to take my brush and splay the hairs out like that, just to get a little bit of that. Then by combination now of really just more or less just water, just so these things aren't so isolated. And I did mention this, I don't really want this to be white because it'll compete too much. So I'm just going to take a little bit of red and go right over it. Okay, that's about all. Just going to take some water because this is off near the edge. I don't want it to be, this isn't the area where I'd want a lot of hard edges. So I'm taking pure water and softening things here. Okay, I've dried it off and erased, cleaned up some of the edges with the pencil, and now it's just finishing touches. So the first one, which has to come in right away, are these fence posts. And I'm not sure that might be a little bit strong. And I'm going to also give them their own shadows. So this will give this picture quite a strong sense of light. And I'm going to just soften some of these shadows, like that one there. And maybe this one here, and this one, and that one. This white line, I like it because it breaks up that space back there, but I don't want it competing with my roof. And just a hint of the blue in it. So I'm almost mixing that blue in every single wash I make. So now this will still read as a light, but it won't compete with my barn. Just blot some of that up. Yeah. I'm also going to take some of this same mixture and these little snowballs. I'm going to just tone down the back of them, which will make the white work even harder. And I also want to take now a strong mixture and just get a little bit of detail. Now I've got to be careful I don't put my hand on this because some of it's still damp, so I'm actually trying to rest my hand on my finger. This is a great skill, one that takes a little bit of practice. I'm just going to get a few. Now this back of the building, the shadow is so strong this probably won't show up. But I'm going to put those two windows in there. And just, again, a little bit of detail down near, or dark value, it's not really detail, down near the bottom of that. Like places like this. Wherever there's white left here is a good place to do that. I want to darken the edge of this creek. I'm going to come right in here. So I'm going to take a few, I'm going to start with, as I usually do, start with a light wash, just to emphasize some, particularly around the top here. And then just take some water. Just soften those edges. Now that it's very wet, I'll just add a few more and let them just flow in there. I think I'll emphasize the land, and that'll give me a chance to put a few and again, this brush anyway, you can see it goes to a very chiseled edge, and I quite like that, particularly if I drag it sideways. I get a nice sense of detail. And then I'm taking just water just to soften this. I hope you've enjoyed this and learned something from it, and we will see you next time.